This is Nikki G and welcome to Better Commander. Today we're talking about new Capenna Commander pickups for your budget decks. Wow dude, everybody's talking about the new set, the new hype, the new Urzas, blah 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 blah. But let's not forget the lessons of the recent past and let's take a break from the hype for a few minutes. New Capenna had some real budget bangers, some cards that'll tickle your whiskers, let me tell you. These sweet Commander cards have been glossed over in the infinite hype cycle. So let's chat about some sweet cards, but first, smash the like button right in the face and then apologize to the subscribe button. Listen, subscribe button, I'm sorry you had to witness that, but that like button, he was no good. First thing I'll mention here is the land cycle. These are premier fixing for 3 to 5 color decks. The borderless versions are very abstract to say the least. I mean, how the heck is this a land? It looks like a dang ornate door to me. It looks like I'm trying to enter a narthex somewhere, but I'll concede they are very pretty. They go anywhere from $11 to $18. The less ornate versions are $5 to $9. Listen, I run these in higher powered decks, 4 color partner decks and 3 color decks. The cycling is an oft overlooked ability that can come in handy late game or if you need a land in your graveyard. Oh man, we got the Titan of Industry, 4 green for a creature elemental. It's a 7/7 with reach and trample. When it enters the battlefield, choose 2. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, I like that. Target player gains 5 life, or create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token. Or put a shield counter on a creature you control. This thing goes for about $350. I like this in a big mana ramp deck. The ETB is great. If you can recur it or flicker it, you'll get double the value. These types of big green monsters are generically powerful and don't really need a build around. I like the versatility on this thing, well worth $3.50. You get Professional Facebreaker, 2 and a red for a creature, human warrior. It's a 2/3 with menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Sacrifice a treasure, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Very versatile, very powerful card. If you have a combat-based deck or a treasure synergy deck, this card is well worth the $3.25. Halo Fountain on the Xbox 360, 2 and a white for an artifact. Has a bunch of abilities on it, but needless to say, you can read them yourself, but it's got 5 white mana, tap. Untap 15 tapped creatures you control, you win the game. Very clunky. This is one of those cards that I don't have a deck for right now, but I can see it in a deck making lots of small creatures or token swarm and winning the game, baby. Arcane Bombardment, $2.40, 4 red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. Then copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana costs. Ooh, look at the pretty lady, she's doing the fireworks show. This can be an incredibly powerful effect if you're spell slinging and making prodigious mana. You got the Tenacious D Underdog, 1 and a black for a creature, human warrior. It's a 3/2. It has Blitz, 2 black, pay 2 life. You may cast Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard using its Blitz ability. This is a recurring creature that draws a card when it dies. This is great in certain decks, those that want creatures dying and those that want to draw cards, buddy. One of my personal favorite cards from this set, Angel of Suffering, 3 black for a creature. It's a nightmare angel. It's 5/3 with flying. If damage would be dealt to you, prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. Beautiful art. A black angel that just looks sick. And if you're into that kind of nonsense. In a self-milled deck, we want those cards in the yard, baby. And you got Slip Out the Back, more like Slip Out the Crack. You know what I'm saying? It's 1 blue for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It phases out. This is like a buck. I've been leaning into this a lot lately. If a creature phases out, it takes its counters with it, it takes its equipments with it, it takes its auras with it. This is great in so many decks. You got Ivy, you got Ramses. Any Voltron commander, any deck that wants to save your commander for 1 blue mana. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. 1 blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. This can seem kind of bad, but because you're giving your opponent treasures, but I often save this until I'm in a game-winning position that's not going to matter anyway. Sanctuary Warden is 4 white for a creature, Angel Soldier. It's a 5/5 with flying. Sanctuary Warden enters the battlefield with 2 shield counters on it. Whenever Sanctuary Warden enters the battlefield or attacks, you may remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker you control. If you do, draw a card and create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. This thing first came to my attention during the hype around Myriad during Commander Legends 2. Myriad this thing and you draw 2 extra cards off your tokens, just take a couple shield counters off them. This is a big beefy Angel Soldier with card draw stapled on and I really like it in so many decks. The thing's only 85 cents. Then we got our old buddy Rocco, Cabaret Caterer. I think I met this guy when I was a kid. He was smoking a cigarette with his hands deep into the tuna salad. It's X, a red, green, and a white for a legendary creature, Elf Druid. It's a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Do any of you guys play Court of Calling? Well, Court of Calling is way better than this, but this is only about 5 cents. Plus, it's a creature for your creature-based Naya decks. I'm really high on this card. Scheming Fence is a white and a blue for a creature. It's a human citizen 2/3. As it enters the battlefield, you may choose a non-land permanent. Activated abilities of the chosen permanent can't be activated. Scheming Fence has all activated abilities of the chosen permanent except for loyalty abilities. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. This card is only a dime. It's very versatile. It's a little hate bear for your Azorius decks. You got the Rabble Rousing, 4 and a white for an enchantment, has Hideaway 5. Whenever you attack with one or more creatures, create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Then if you control 10 or more creatures, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. This is 40 cents and has art harkening back to the struggles of the labor movement in the early 1920s. Rabble, rabble, rabble. Ask yourself, does this deck want to attack? Do you want to create tokens? Well, this card is one for you, buddy. Gala Greeters. I had to read this card a couple times. It's 1 and a green for a creature, Elf Druid. It's a 1/1. Has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on Gala Greeters, create a tap treasure token, you gain 2 life. This is great in an elf deck. It's very slow ramp, but it's good for budget value decks. Fight Rigging. I think the Rhino in this is supposed to represent Logan Paul or whatever his name is. 2 and a green for an enchantment, has Hideaway 5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. It's insanely easy to trigger the Hideaway condition in a stompy green deck, and if you're built to take advantage of it, you can get a 7-drop or whatever for free. I like this card in decks that need counters to trigger effects. I like the Hideaway effect in general. Commanders that want a mass of modified creatures from Kamigawa would love this card. Big Score is 3 and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards, create 2 treasure tokens. I've been sticking this in a lot of decks lately. The value is pretty insane if discarding a card plays into your game plan. This is a solid little role player. I mentioned this guy recently in one of my videos. You have the Devilish Valet, 2 and a red for a Devil Warrior. It's a 1/3 with trample and haste. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, double Devilish Valet's power until the end of turn. This guy has a good scheme going. What a knucklehead. He's stealing everybody's weapons. Double power is insane. If you put out 4 tokens in a goblin deck or something, that's 16 power swinging in. Not to mention if you manage to up his power at the beginning of all that. It's time to even the score. X blue 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 for an instant. The spell costs blue 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 less to cast if an opponent has drawn 4 or more cards this turn. Draw X cards. I like these effects. In a wheel deck or any deck where you're playing at instant speed, this can draw a whole grip of cards at instant speed for cheap. I play a lot of cards like this in various decks, and it's nice to have another option. And you got your Undercover Mother, 2 blue blue for a creature Shapeshifter Rogue. It's a 0/0. You can have Undercover Operative enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it enters with a shield counter on it if you control that creature. Oh man, I love clones as a theme, and through the years they have gotten really creative with the upside on the clones. Shield counter is an excellent incentive. Jaxis the Troublemaker, 3 and a red for a legendary creature, human warrior. It's a 2/3. Has red and tap, discard a card. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. It has Blitz for 1 and a red. This thing feeds the graveyard, it draws cards, it doubles up your ETB effects. Very underrated card in my oh so humble opinion. Then we have Inspiring Overseer, 2 and a white for a creature, Angel Cleric. It's a 2/1 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you gain a life and you draw a card. Great tribes, great effect. I use this in a budget Duke Ulder deck, and if you're in a Blink deck or any deck using a Panharmonicon, I'd keep an eye on this little Angel common. You have Witty Roastmaster, 2 and a red for a creature, Devil Citizen. It's a 3/2. Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. This guy has gone in so many decks this year. I love that he's just doing arson on somebody's face. What a ding dong this guy is. It's a real challenge for me to say Ziatora. I always want to say Pizza Tora or something like that. But we have Ziatora's Envoy, 1 black, a red, and a green for a creature, Viashino Warrior. It's a 5/4 with Trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of your library. You may play a land from the top of your library or cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the damage dealt from the top of your library without paying its mana cost. If you don't, put that card in your hand. It has Blitz for 2 black, red, and a green. I don't know, man. I think this is a pretty sweet card. Get it out there, blitz it back for more shenanigans, draw a bunch of cards. This is a cool card. Rumor Gatherer, she's out there with a delve making songs and talking to tiny elephants. 1 white for a creature, Elf Wizard, it's a 2/1. Has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead. This is a great card for 10 cents. I love this. Scry 1, draw a card for making 2 tokens. This is fantastic, brother. Sanguine Spy, 2 and a black for a creature, Vampire Rogue, it's a 2/3 with Menace and Lifelink. Has 1, sacrifice another creature, surveil 1. At the beginning of your end step, if there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. This has aggressive stats, a couple keyword abilities, a sacrifice outlet, and card draw in a self-mill deck. I like this card. So tell me what you thought of New Capenna. Any budget pickups tickling your fancy? Did y'all build any decks? Are you having any luck with any of these sweet budget cards? It was a blast for me, and I don't want it to get lost in the ever-spinning hype machine. Stay safe out there, my friends. This is Nicky G from Better Commander, signing off.